You guys are really scared of other people, aren't you?
Okay. It's not that I'm scared, but I'm just like, I don't want to put, in the position to be like, well, I don't know, reports, man.
I want your question to be represented in the most intentional light possible. So,
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So, let's get to it. So, during the off season, of course, there's a lot of rumors, a lot of reporting, a lot of leaking, and you were connected to RunAway as a whole team. So as much as that is possible in terms of age restrictions and what's not. Of course, there's some restrictions, even though one has to say now, like for instance, Mac could have possibly been signed, but wasn't, at least at this point in time. So how much is to that rumor? And if that was actually true, and you ended up with 2 people from RunAway at least, what happened?
So 100% false on the whole RunAway roster. That was never going to be a thing. That was never something we were even considering. Because, I'm confident in our tank line. That's like Fate, Gargoyle. I think Gargoyle has a ton of potential. Fate, veteran player. He was top 5 in season 1. Like, I think undisputed top 5 main tank in season 1. And now it's 2-2-2 meta. Like, he'll be fine. He didn't do too well in GOATs. A lot. I think most of the top 5 main tanks in season 1 didn't do well in GOATs.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you look at Gesture.
I guess that
there's a big shift.
Yeah.
Gesture, Fisher.
Yeah.
That's 3 of them. And then I think the other 2. I can't think of another 2 off the top of my head, but
Gamisu maybe.
Mono.
Yeah, Mono is a fair shout.
He did okay, but definitely not to the degrees that he did, in Apex and NYXL season 1. So
the logic still stands. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a really interesting insight. Yeah.
Yeah. So never in talks to sign the whole RunAway roster. We were in talks to sign half. So 3. But we ended up with 2 off-season craziness. But I'm happy with the 2 that we got. I'm not going to tell you who the 3rd was. But yeah.
Yiska
Definitely
just keeps saying,
signings.
damn it. Damn it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yaki and Gangnam Jenner, nothing to be ashamed of like that. Those are 2 very, very nice signings. Definitely exciting players to see Florida pick up and hopefully do well with.
I've been surprised with the lack of Yaki mentions when people talk about Rookie of the Year, like consideration.
Definitely a candidate.
Yeah, he is a candidate. I would say he's a little bit outside. The problem is I have this idea of almost internal timers of player careers. And Yaki has been...
This kid's been grinding
pretty
forever.
good at the game since Apex Season 2, basically.
Yeah.
So it's always like, Yaki, who are you?
Yeah.
These concerns. But I definitely agree. Like, for instance, when we had a show format with another podcast, ironically, with... Mineral from Boston, where we had to answer what kind of a player we would choose to build a franchise around, and we couldn't take him out for 5 years, and I initially actually had Yaki in that.
Okay,
like I thought it's likely. Then again, since then a bunch of DPS players suggested themselves as well, like Glister. I think a lot of people had Glister in that list, for instance. Sure. But yeah, Yaki definitely insane, like on multiple heroes. And also, I'm not sure if he's like a hyper flex like Libero is or Prophet is, or they're not that many, but he's sort of close. He definitely has hit scan heroes, and he definitely has top tier hit scan hero, hit scan and projectile. I'm not sure if he's above average on everything else like these 2 are. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, season will tell. I think people, including Spark, is a little weird because he's not. I think he's a really good player. I just don't think with half a season to be active for, he's going to be able. I don't think anyone's going to win MVP off of half of season performance.
Yeah, at least they shouldn't, right? By all means, I don't care how many flashy plays end up on Reddit. Homeboy should not be getting, marked over a rookie that's been playing all season and doing well, right? So
yeah, it's like we're playing a game of dice, and you can only use this one dice for the second half of the game, while everyone else is allowed to use all their dice. And then this kid is also only good if it rolls a 6 or a 5. Yeah. Meaning like Doomfist or Farah. Like,
I mean, I played too much D&D, man. I'm like, I've seen that.
I think Sparkle has more than 2 heroes.
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
But would you say would you agree with his tendency to be aggressive, let's say?
Sparkles
Sparkles always struck me as a player who's like always aggressive.
But I think it helps a lot that Rush is coaching that team because he's put Sparkle in a position to succeed since
100%.
Sparkle joined that team. And I think it's important to have a coach that can unlock that potential. Question is, A, is it going to happen with the mixed roster? And B, like, is it going to be enough? I think those are like the big questions for them. And for us, Yaki just made, like, I was interested in Sparkle. I think every GM in the league would be lying if they didn't look at Sparkle and was like, hey, we pick him up. But for us, it made more sense for Yaki because we don't have that backup flex DPS, right? So like we don't have the luxury to wait for Sparkle to come of age. Yaki's ready to go. He'll be with us for the whole season and he's eligible. So I'm very happy with the Yaki pickup. That was our position of most need as well. I think pretty obvious we needed a flex DPS. Yeah.
So let's go to the 2020 season a little bit. Let's talk about the future here. We've talked about the past, how we got here, but 2020 it's a different bird, if you will. And expectations are, I mean, at least comparatively, much higher for the Mayhem this season than they have been in seasons past. You've made some changes on the staff side. You've made some changes on the player side. You've signed 2 runaway players. Is there anything else out there that you think should be considered when looking at the Florida Mayhem and finding that optimism?
I think the optimism probably most. We ended the season on a high note. Meta changed. It's 2-2-2. Difference this season is at least the parameters have changed. So like, yes, it might be a new meta, but it's still a meta where you play 2 of each hero as opposed to, like 3-3 or 4. There's more variations without the roll lock. So I think there's more confidence going into the off season, and we had some high points like Gargoyle playing so well for us on multiple heroes. Mostly on Roadhog in stage 4. But I want to talk a little bit more about Gargoyle. Like I've seen people say like, oh yeah, but like he hasn't proven himself on anything. Like this guy has played every single hero that's been asked of him, like from contenders like to now, and he hasn't let people down. He started off as Diva, then in Goats. If you watch any of their games, he was playing their Zarya because he was their best Zarya player. He was doing really well in Zarya. And then when we got him, it was like, oh, now you have to play like Diva, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you have to play Hog. Like I'd never seen him play Hog in contenders. He was one of the best Hogs in stage 4, and a big part of why we won so many games. So yeah, I think Gargo's super strong, a lot of potential. Plus, going into the offseason, like everyone knew it was going to be Sigma. Like none of the teams that didn't get playoff experience has any idea like how good their Sigma player is until it happens. It's like, why take a risk on someone else that you have no idea what their Sigma is? Sure. But I'd rather take place of like, I'd rather bet on the player that I've seen continually adapt and add off tanks to his hero pool. So yeah, I think his Sigma's great. So we'll see. But yeah, so I think tank line's fine. People were very low on Fate last season just because Goats. But as I said before, most of the top 5 main tanks from season 1 didn't have a good Goats season. And now it's back to what they excelled at, which is in a 2-2-2 framework.
That's the question, if that's the case, because I'm not yet so sure. I've also heard that other aforementioned names in that category are still not doing well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a question.
Sure.
Like we're not in a Winston meta as it looks like. And that was
Who?
basically the crown, the crown discipline of top 5 of those top 5 tanks
Sure.
in season 1, right? So
Yeah.
that's certainly a question mark for me. Like if it is just generally, by the way,
Yeah.
is star power, how long does it last really?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So totally valid concern regarding like top 5 in general, but obviously I have more experience with Fate since I watch him and I hear the
Right.
comms. But like
Sure.
for us, he's a leader, very instrumental in our comms, in our comm structure, and calling plays, leading the team. So I think that in that aspect, I think that's more important. I think I agree. It's pretty hard to distinguish yourself on Orisa. It's just nature of the hero. So yeah,
That's
I mean,
cool.
yeah, it's how many pulls do you have? It's like the pulls, like it's just not sexy playing like popping off on Orisa.
Yeah.
Even if they pop
I
on the
think
kill feed,
Orisa
it's
is
like
very sexy.
yeah,
Oh, you mean like gameplay stats wise? Oh yeah, sure.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so Fate's an integral part of our team. I think the only other like people are concerned about BQB. I think we literally played him in a role that he's not supposed to be playing last year, just due to the nature of our roster and the limitations. So I feel like that shouldn't be a knock on him. And plus, he did fairly well when we had him play Hanzo in May towards the end of the season. So I think he's expanded. He got a chance to expand his hero pool last year just because he was forced to play on uncomfortable heroes. I think similar like Color Hex. Color Hex is not, he didn't have a Widow before he was forced to play Widow just due to the circumstances, right? And I think a lot of people forget the roots or like are unaware of like what that player's main hero pool is, and they just focus on, hey, like what have you done for me lately, right? And I think for BKB, it's like I'm confident in his hit scan like flexibility. Plus now he can add on a few projectile heroes or what used to be flex DPS heroes. So yeah, I'm high on BKB. Saya, I don't think anything needs to be said. I think he's the best sniper in the league, bar none. Me personally, but yeah,
Sure. I wouldn't argue with you.
And then I think flex support, I think everyone's pretty okay on. Now that we have 2, we have Ghanem Jin, we have Byram. I think we're set there. Chris, I get the criticism.
Here we go.
Yeah, I get the criticism. Chris is like, he didn't look good in goats. But I think his calling's good and his Baptiste is actually pretty decent, or pretty good actually. I like his Baptiste a lot. In stage 4, he played a lot of Baptiste. I think it was fine there. And his calls, between that and his calls, I mean, he's not like the flashiest main support. Like he's not Masa, like wall riding around, like booping, like going for X Factor plays or Moth, but not, there's very few main supports that can do all that, and get away with it and also call at the same time. Like, I don't know how many of those players are calling at the same time.
Sure.
Remains to be seen how Chris does, but I'm happy with Chris and I'm happy with his synergy with Fate, and I think that's important for team performance, like moving forward.
Sure.
And I like the core. I think it's important to have, especially moving to season 3 where everyone's on the road. I think it's going to be really important how your baseline synergy, your baseline energy with your core, day in and day out, is going to be more important then, because you're not going to be able to get as much practice as you could last year. Like last year, you could have just, hey, we're going to do 3 days for like 3 weeks, to like grind it back up. Now it's like, okay, you can do like 3 for 1 day, 2 days, and then you got to fly out. So I think I think the load's going to be more on like coaching to be like, hey, let's play I think a lot of it's going to be like, hey, make sure we play our game rather than let's completely change what we're doing. Because I think it's going to be really hard to change what you're doing once the season gets underway with how hectic the schedule is this year.